Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another lesson, number 33. This week, we're going to look at yet another white man who cannot regulate his emotions.
Oh boy.
But first, let's do the business. We will be at Haywood Pride on Main on June 28th. That is Saturday.
Come check us out.
Second annual. We'll have stickers and shirts, and Patty will be there. So y'all come by and say hi. If you found us here first and are a fan of the paranormal, give our show, The Paranormal Lovers, a try. Over 100 episodes about everything from golems to the legend of Blackbeard the pirate.
I thought you were going to say Zelda.
Why would I say Zelda?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
The Legend of Zelda.
There are also a few episodes from our short-lived true crime show. Few episodes, but that's on Patreon if you want to listen to all 25 episodes.
I think it ended with me doing one on Paranormal Lovers, like carrying it over and then like boo-hooing my eyes out while I was doing it.
No, we did one on we ended Deadly Lovers with Judith Barcy.
Yeah,
The
that
girl.
one was so emotional.
Yeah, the girl who was murdered by her dad because she was famous
Littlefoot.
and he didn't like it. Yeah, Anne Marie and Ducky. She played Ducky.
Oh, okay.
If you would please be so kind, give us a follow, share, rating, and review, if possible, on social media and your favorite streaming app. We are on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We also have videos on YouTube. Just search for the Paranormal Lovers in the search bar to find us on any of these platforms. If you would like to support the making of these shows, we have a couple ways to do so. First, we have a merch store over at theparanormallovers.threadless.com where you can get clothes, blankets, mugs, many other things. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/paranormal lovers, where for only $5 a month, you get early access to unedited videos of both shows, as well as stickers and other swag from time to time. Finally, if you have a personal story, topic request, or you'd like to be a guest on the show, email us at theparanormallovers@yahoo.com.
We need more guests.
We do need more guests. We haven't done one since Tunai.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Which also, the Akona Lefty Village is open. You guys go check that out. It's the 75th anniversary of Unto These Hills, the outdoor dramatization of a small portion of the history of the Cherokee people. And yes, we are friends with like the speaker dude that does the talking at the village. So
yeah,
y'all should go check it out. It's a good time.
Definitely.
So, warning up front, this episode we're going to be covering a bombing. I used disaster in the thing because I don't know. Nobody wants to see school bombing.
Right.
There's also going to be a few times we're going to talk about animal abuse, death, animal murder. It's not a good time.
Nope.
In a country where school shootings are a daily occurrence, this still stands as the deadliest school massacre in U.S. history. And I wish I could remember which podcast I heard it about on, but I listen to so many, I don't remember. The site of this tragedy was in Bath Township in Clinton County, Michigan, a little ways outside of Lansing. This township only had a population of about 300 adults. In 1922, after years of debate, voters approved the creation of a consolidated school district. Up until this time, each little community had their own one-room school, but this would bring them all together. With the approval of this school, voters also approved higher property taxes to pay for said school. The school was K through 12 and had 236 enrolled students when it opened. Andrew Philip Kehoe was born on February 1st, 1872 in Teachumech, Michigan. I know I said that all kinds of fucking wrong. Y'all don't come at me. And was one of 13 children. After graduating high school, he attended Michigan State College where he studied electrical engineering. He then moved to St. Louis where he was an electrician for many years. During this time, Kehoe had a fall that caused a head injury.
Uh
He
oh.
spent, yeah, yeah. He spent several weeks recuperating in the hospital, with some of that time possibly being spent in a coma.
Jeez.
So, traumatic brain injury.
There's the first sign.
After this, he ended up moving back to his father's farm. Kehoe's mother passed away, and soon after, his father moved on to a much younger woman, Frances Wilder, who was also a widow, and the two had one daughter together. On September 17th, 1911, Frances was attempting to light the family's oil stove when it exploded, setting her on fire.
Holy crap.
Kehoe, claiming he was trying to help, tossed a bucket of water on her. She was lighting an oil stove.
Mm.
I learned at a very young age that oil and water don't mix,
No.
and this caused the fire to spread, engulfing her whole body.
Jeez.
She died the next day. And it did not take long for rumors to spread around town that Kehoe had something to do with it. In 1912, Kehoe married Ellen Nellie Price when he was 40. The two moved to a farm outside of Bath in 1919. Many saw Kehoe as a dependable person who was willing to help out a neighbor, but people also described him as quote unquote notoriously impatient.
Hmm.
I'm notoriously impatient, I think. I have no patience for nothing. Nothing. This guy is a fucking asshole with a very violent, and had a bad fucking temper.
Yeah.
Um, Warning about this animal abuse. Quote, he had shot and killed a neighbor's dog that come on to his property and annoyed him by barking. He had also beaten one of his horses to death when it did not perform to his expectations, end quote.
Mm.
I'm so glad that I'm over that because every time I read that sentence, I have the worst imagination. And I'm
Yeah.
like, how long do you have to beat a fucking horse to beat it to death?
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Like, goddamn.
Right.
He was no better when he joined the school board. He spent most of his time complaining.
They let him on the school board. Holy shit.
If I could tell him,
That's
me,
no good.
bro. Yeah, he beat a horse to death, but that's fine. Let's let him,
He'll be great
help
wrangling these
make rules about
teenagers.
kids. Fuck. He spent most of his time complaining about his high taxes, trying to get them lower, and fighting against even the most basic funds for the school. Now, admittedly, he did kind of had a high property tax, roughly about $2,500 to $3,000
Wow.
US dollars in today's money, but it's a fucking farm.
Yeah.
It's a fucking farm.
Right.
At the time, it was about $200 is what he had to pay, but this was like 1920, so $200 was a lot of money.
Was a lot of money back then.
His bitterness was fueled when in June of 1926, Kehoe was notified that his house was going to be foreclosed on.
Mm.
It was later reported by the sheriff that when he delivered the notice to Kehoe, he heard him mutter, quote, if it hadn't been for that $300 school tax, I might have paid this mortgage, end quote.
Hmm. Wait a minute.
I mean,
$300 school tax.
yeah. Well, it did. His taxes did go up, I think, until it was about $300. At this point, it started out at like 100, and then you know how taxes go up every year. Ours was like 1,300 the first year.
Was it just for him to be on the school board, or
No,
what was he paying
part of your
school
property
taxes?
tax, part of your
Oh.
property tax goes towards the school. So he was saying that the reason why his property taxes was so high was because of the school,
Mm.
because he had to pay for the school.
Gotcha.
He's blaming the school. When she first mentioned the possibility of foreclosure, Mrs. Price, the mortgage holder, and I think she was a relative of his,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a relative. No, she was his wife's stepmother or like step aunt, maybe. Um, Mrs. Price, the mortgage holder, claims Kehoe told her, quote, "If I can't live in that house, no one else will," end quote. During his time on the school board, Kehoe was also appointed temporary town clerk in 1925. But when the election was held on April 5th, 1926, he was defeated. This is believed to be the tipping point for Kehoe. He is what some people believe to be an injustice collector, meaning that he would hold on to grudges for the smallest slight against him. This, in combination with his own personal misfortunes, pushed him until he felt he had to strike out at those he felt had wronged him. Add to this the brain damage, it was a recipe for disaster.
For sure.
A. McMullen was Kehoe's neighbor and noticed that he had started neglecting his property about a year before the bombings happened. Around April of 1927, Kehoe had even given McMullen one of his horses, but fearing the man planned to commit suicide, he gave him the horse back. And I bet he was probably fucking kicking himself after what he found out happened to them horses.
Right.
While he may not have been keeping up with the landscaping, he was preparing his house for his big plan. Quote, Kehoe had cut all his wire fence as part of his preparations to destroy his farm, girdling young shade trees to kill them, and cutting off his grapevine plants before putting them back in their stumps to hide the damage. He gathered lumber and other materials and put them in the tool shed. End quote. Um, and if anybody doesn't know what girdling young shade trees to kill them means, I didn't know. I had to look it up. It's when you cut a strip of bark all the way around the tree off so nutrients can't reach the higher part of the tree and it will effectively kill it.
Gotcha.
Around this time, Kehoe's wife Nellie was seriously ill with what was believed to be tuberculosis, which at the time had no cure. It was believed that her health could have contributed to the debt that Kehoe was facing, although it is in no way her fucking fault. He went off the goddamn deep end. While it was possible that Kehoe had been planning this for a long time, many believe the election is what set all of this into motion. Quote, I have no doubt that he made his plan last fall, 1926, to blow up the school. He was an experienced electrician, and the board employed him in November to make some repairs on the school's lighting system.
No,
He
no.
had ample opportunity then to plant the explosives and lay the wires for touching it off, end quote. Shortly before he was hired to work on the school, Kehoe began purchasing pyrotol, an incendiary commonly used by farmers during this time. Another thing that we have learned during doing this show that farmers kept large quantities of was
Fertilizer,
dynamite.
dynamite.
So it did not raise any suspicions when Kehoe started going around buying dynamite from different stores in different states. Because it's not like they had the World Wide Webs in the 1920s to run a background check or, had a singular database.
Yeah.
Kind of like now, if you go to different stores and you buy a bunch of like Sudafed, the FBI is going to come knocking on your door. Want to know how I know? I had a friend whose brother used to buy a fuck ton of Sudafed because he worked at like 4 o'clock in the morning and he would use it to stay awake. And they put him on a fucking list and came and knocked on her mama's door.
Wow.
Like, god dang. It was even less suspicious for Kehoe to be purchasing so much dynamite, as it was so common to hear explosives from his farm. His neighbors had dubbed him the dynamite farmer.
All right.
It still blows my mind that fucking farmers just had goddamn dynamite just fucking laying around. I don't think that's a thing anymore.
I mean, if you need a tree cut down,
Then cut it down. Cut it
use some
down.
dynamite.
God, could you imagine if George is just out there fucking blowing up dynamite instead of using a tractor to pull up the stumps out of their yard? Because Jennifer was telling me the other day that he was pulling up stumps out of the yard, and I'm like, could you imagine him just fucking throwing dynamite out there to blow up the stump? Honestly, I feel like he would be the type that would, though,
Yeah.
with a beer in one hand. On December of 1926, Kehoe also purchased a 30 caliber Winchester bolt action rifle. He then packed the back seat of his truck with metal that would turn into shrapnel in an explosion.
Kind of like one of those rifles.
Yeah. Kehoe was seen making several trips. Well, no, hang on. Kehoe made several trips to Lansing and was seen many times making trips all around town, mainly to the school, into town, and back to his farm.
I want, I want a lever action though.
Okay, focus. One neighbor says there was a car parked outside the school many nights, and one night she saw a man carrying items into the school. I think I'd be calling the cops, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not typically one who's always, "Ooh, call the cops." But I mean, for one, that's your fucking job. That's what you're there for. That's what I'm gonna call you for. But in this day and age, man, um, if I see somebody like taking shit into a school in the middle of the night and it's not like a group of people that you can kind of tell when there's like some teachers doing stuff there at school at night and stuff, I'm calling the cops. Don't fuck with kids.
Yeah.
On May 16th, 1927, Nellie was released from the hospital for the last time. It is believed she was killed either that day or the next, but it is hard to tell due to the condition of her body when it was found. On May 18th, neighbors heard a loud explosion coming from Kehoe's farm at 8:45 in the morning. One neighbor found pieces of Kehoe's buildings in his chicken coop. Once they noticed the fire, volunteers headed to the farm. They checked inside the house, but finding no people, they began removing furniture from the living room. Which, when I first read that, I was like, what? You're gonna go save the furniture? What? But it actually turned out to be a smart idea because one man, while in the living room removing furniture, noticed a pile of dynamite in the corner,
Mm.
and they were able to remove the explosives from the house before they detonated. And I'm thinking this is might be why Kehoe did not leave the farm when he initially detonated the bomb. I think he was probably waiting for the dynamite to explode so he could watch the people that he felt shunned him get hurt.
Right.
But we'll never know. We do know that he drove off as people were working to remove furniture from the house. He stopped momentarily to warn a few people he considered friends that they should head to the school, and then he took off. At the same time as the bomb at the farm went off, the bomb under the north wing of the school also detonated. Rescuers who were heading to the farm heard the school explosion and turned around to head to the new scene. Parents who had been outside ran to the school to try to rescue their children, only to find what resembled a war zone when they got there. They were met with the horrific scene of the roof of the school leaning on the ground, arms and legs and heads were visible in the rubble and strewn about on the ground.
Jeez.
Quote, mother after mother came running into the schoolyard and demanded information about her child, and on seeing the lifeless form lying on the lawn, sobbed, and some swooned. In no time, more than 100 men at work tearing away the debris of the school, and nearly as many women were frantically pawing over the timber and broken bricks for traces of their children. I saw more than one woman lift clusters of brick held together by mortar, heavier than the average man could have handled without a crowbar. End quote. That's that adrenaline shit that moms have fucking kicking in right there.
I would imagine so.
As I said, the roof of the north wing had collapsed, and one man offered to go back to his farm to get some rope to haul it out of the way. As he was driving away, Kehoe drove past him, headed to the school. The man said Kehoe smiled and waved at him, but he noticed that when he smiled so big he could see both rows of his teeth.
Creepy.
This was about 30 minutes since the first bomb had exploded. Kehoe drove up to the school and waved the superintendent, Emery Hikick, over to his truck. Witnesses report seeing the two men struggle over what they believe was some sort of long gun before Kehoe's truck exploded. The explosion killed Kehoe, Emery, two local farmers, and an 8-year-old boy named Cleo Clayton. Cleo had made it through the bombing to be rescued and be sent outside, only to be hit with shrapnel when the truck exploded.
Mm.
The field of debris from the truck bomb reached half a block, with the roof of some nearby cars catching on fire. Several people were injured. I saw one. This lady was standing like a couple blocks away with her baby. She was holding her baby and got hit in the fucking eye with shrapnel
Jeez.
while holding her baby.
Mm.
Like, goddamn, that baby's lucky. Several people were injured, one of them fatally. Glenn O. Smith was the local postmaster whose leg was blown off when the truck exploded. Though people tried to tend to his wound, he passed away before making it to the hospital. And I was like, could you imagine if that one guy that lost his leg at our job had lost his leg 100 years ago at our job? He'd have died.
Yeah.
And
I'm
people are
sure.
like, I'm sure somebody was like, wait, what? Yeah, there's a dude that lost his leg in an explosion at my old job, Ian's current job. We're not allowed to talk about because we signed an NDA. Um, yeah, so that's wild. He
Yeah.
almost lost his arm too, but like they were able to save that. Now he's like in there running around with a prosthetic leg on, still like
He's a trooper.
he's a fucking true. You know, that motherfucker tried to come back to work 3 months after he got hurt.
It's crazy.
Like 3 months, he was trying to get back in there, and they were like, "Dude, take the time and do some physical therapy, K."
Yeah.
Everyone in and around Bath rallied to help any way they could. Telephone operators stayed at their boards for hours. Bless you. Bless you.
Ugh.
No third. Okay. Telephone operators stayed at their boards for hours, calling doctors, undertakers, hospital workers, and anyone they could think of who might be able to help. The Lansing Fire Department sent around 50 firefighters to help, including the fire chief. A local physician and his wife, who were both veterans of World War I, turned their local drugstore into a triage center. Contractors in the area sent all the employees they could to help with the recovery efforts. The Michigan State Police showed up to manage traffic because too many fucking people showed up to do some disaster tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all stop that shit. And the at the time governor, Fred W. Green, even showed up and helped remove rubble. And the Lawrence Baking Company in Lansing sent a truck full of sandwiches and pies to feed the rescue workers. While searching the school, the rescuers found another bomb consisting of about 500 pounds of dynamite under the opposite wing of the school
Damn.
that had failed to detonate. They're thinking what happened was when the first bomb went off, it
Sever the connection.
somehow knocked a wire loose or caused a short circuit in the second bomb, and that's why it didn't go off.
Right.
But if both bombs had went off,
There'd have been nothing left.
I can't even imagine. This motherfucker. If only somebody had shot him.
Yeah.
Rescue work was paused so the bomb could be disabled, and after a quick search, the rescue was resumed. Back at the farm, it would take 2 days before investigators found Nellie's badly burned body in a wheelbarrow outside.
Hmm.
They'd been walking past it for over 24 hours because
Wow.
it was like the next day. They just kept walking past it. It was just in a wheelbarrow out behind one of the buildings that had been exploded.
Hmm.
And they didn't realize it was a body. They had initially thought she might be at a tuberculosis sanitarium since they didn't find her in the house, but she was not. Another quick warning about animal abuse because goddamn, this motherfucker sucks. Kehoe had rigged bombs in all of the buildings on his farm. This included the barn where he kept his 2 horses.
Hmm.
To make a bad situation even worse, when they were found dead, having been burned alive, investigators found that Kehoe had tied their legs together so they could not run away.
Hmm. That's horrible.
I'm like, motherfucker, you better be glad you blew your damn self up because they'd had a fucking field day with his ass in prison. Animals and kids and animals.
Yeah,
You tied your fucking horse's legs together so they couldn't run away?
that's horrible.
You sick, twisted son of a bitch. Mm. On a fence on the property, a wooden sign had been attached that read, quote, criminals are made, not born, end quote. I'm so glad this motherfucker's dead.
Yeah.
Kehoe's body was taken by his sister and buried in a pauper cemetery. Nellie's family took her and buried her at a Lansing cemetery under her maiden name. While in the week after the disaster, there were over 100,000 cars that came through the town to see the school. It's so sick. Stop disaster tourism. It's sick. People do not need you driving by to see the literal worst fucking moments of their lives.
Right.
Stop. Cancel disaster tourism, okay? It was a short-lived spotlight as just 2 days later, Charles Lindbergh made his historic transatlantic flight. And the people of Bath were thankful for that as it gave them time to mourn and grieve in peace. Today, there is a memorial park where the school stood. It even has a piece of the original school right where it would have been back in the day. As for the farm, the property was bulldozed on and sold at auction, and no one has built anything on it since. A lot of people believe that there might be dynamite like buried on the property somewhere. There's
Mm-hmm.
never been any reports of any being found or any explosions happening, but people still talk.
Yeah.
And that is the terrible story of the Bath School disaster, bombing, massacre, whatever you want to call it.
Clusterfuck.
Yet another example of how it's not gay or brown people who are the problem. Which also like happy fucking Pride Month, folks. Not us that's the problem. It's fucking white men who are terrifying when they don't get their way. We had this motherfucker come
Yep.
in the store the other day with a 45 strapped to his hip. I don't have a problem with that. People around here walk around with guns strapped to their hips all the time. You really do get used to it after a while. But I want to know why his holster was undone.
Right.
As in, he had it open so that he could remove his gun quickly should he have the need. Why? What do you think's gonna happen?
Right.
You're at a goddamn thrift store, sir. With your fucking Trump 2024 shirt. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
All right, folks. Well, I really do need another word for enjoyed because that doesn't feel correct about episodes like this. But we do hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.